Hi, Professor Cap.
Hello.
Good evening, Cap.
Good evening.
Nick.
I shared the video so you can take over anytime that you want.
Okay, let me share. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
And it is in the presentation mode, right?
Yep. You can
Okay.
see it.
All right. So let me know when we can start.
All right.
Julio, can you announce who we are and what we're doing? So we are recording this and we will make it available for students if that is okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julio Catalan, president of the San Francisco PDA student chapter. And every month we have a speaker series with distinctive individuals who are in the biotech or biopharma industry. And tonight we have a special guest. Who works at the Boeing Research Company. And Sumaira Amir. And welcome.
Thank you, Julio. So let me move this. All right, good evening, everyone. And thank you all for attending this informal talk. I'm grateful for giving me this opportunity to come and talk to you guys. I'll keep it very casual and feel free to interrupt if you have any questions during the talk. It's not actually a talk, it's more like a story about my career and journey and my transition that happened a couple of years ago from academia to industry, which for some reason, some people find it very interesting and unusual that I made transition like so late in my career, not as opposed to like right after you graduate. So, and I will talk about the challenges I faced during my academic career. And then when I was trying to make the transition, then the lessons I learned and how I overcame them and some of the advice that I could give or the differences that I have seen between working the two different sectors in academia and the research and development and then in commercial manufacturing of late stage biologics. So this is something about the life journey, which first I find it, amazing journey as an amazing journey. And, as a child, I never thought, I will come that far, but, I was born in India to a Pakistani father and an Indian mother. And a little bit of history about the subcontinent, like millions of others. Both my parents were born in a country which is now called India, but at that time it was under British rule. And after the country got independence from Britain, it split into two separate countries. And my father's side of the family moved to a newly created country called Pakistan, while my mother's side of the family stayed in India. So I grew up and had my elementary schooling in India, in northern part of India, and learned the language, whatnot. And then later on, when I was 12 years of old, due to some personal and mostly political reason, and I'm not going to delve into that, but like just a little bit, like my father was a political figure and he was in politics. So due to some reason, those reasons we had to move to Pakistan because of his insistence from my father's side of the family. And we migrated to Karachi, which is one of the largest metropolitan city in Asia. It's over 200 million population. It's like second it's very, it's like New York or like, like people have very misconceived notions about how that city is, but it's like any other major city with the similar problems, educational background and all that. So, then we settled over there, learned the language, but if you guys are aware, like both the countries, they speak different languages. The dialect is different. Pakistanis speak Urdu, Indians speak Hindi, so I can speak both the language. I can read and write both the languages, but I studied and I speak English speaking school. So, I was like from the early age was able to talk or communicate in English. So a lot of challenges in settling into a new country when you're like already 12 years old, leaving everybody, all your friends, off behind. So that's when we thought like we settled, started settling up, and we got a very dreadful news that my father would, like within 6 months of moving into a new country, he was diagnosed with the late stage thoracic cancer. And, how do I say, like for the last 8 months, for the past 8 months, he bravely endured surgery, chemo and radiation therapy, but eventually lost his life to this disease. I was like less than 13 years old, the oldest in my family. My mom was like only 36 years old. That was a lot of challenge. And it made me realize that, I have responsibilities towards my younger siblings to be a mentor, and it was not a choice. But like I matured overnight from having this, pampered life, a loving father, to suddenly yet nobody in the new country where you were still trying to learn the normal ways of life. And anyways, focused on working hard, getting good education and becoming independent. And from the very early age, my mother, who like I give a lot of credit to where I am today, education wise, instilled in us like education is very important, being independent is extremely important, especially for girls who are coming from the conservative background, because life can bring unexpected challenges. Where she was like in a new country without any relatives, a widow, and then she has to look after 4 kids. So she thought, I wish I would not have been gotten married that early at young an age. When she was like only 18, I would have gotten higher education. So she made sure that all 3 of us, like sisters and my brother, they all put the foremost importance to the education. So anyways, I had a choice to go into med school, but I opted out because medical education is expensive everywhere. And I thought like, I have younger brothers and sisters, and if my mom will use up all the savings that my dad left for me, then there was nothing else for my younger brothers and sisters. And like, unlike United States, they don't have students loan or anything. So it has to be like whatever, you have to give everything up front. So, and I dreamt about working hard and going abroad to get higher education. So I got scholarship to get into an honors program at University of Karachi. And I did my BSc honors in microbiology, then my master's, and then I, you know, took part into on the scholarship program and got, which is called S&T Science and Technology Scholarship. It does not exist anymore. So I got a Fulbright scholarship from UNESCO to a fully funded PhD degree in Europe. And it was like a program that was split into 3 different countries. So I took that opportunity and went to Europe. So like if you see in the map, you see India here, then I went to Pakistan, then went to France, then to Germany, then to Eastern Europe in Hungary. Then I came to United States to do my postdoc at University of Iowa. And from there, then moved to Davis at UC Davis Med Center or the Cancer Center. So any questions so far?
Sumaira, do you know why they don't have that program anymore? I mean, it sounds like a really great program. It sounds like
You know, yeah, everything in Pakistan is very politically motivated. So like when I was in college, it was mostly funded through the government, foreign governments. And now over the years, the political, leaders have lost interest in pursuing the educational, needs, or like they don't look after it anymore. So that's the reason, they have different programs. Like one is called USID. There's also a very good scholarship through Uppsala University in Sweden. But this particular program, which was very good because it was Fulbright, like you not only get your tuition paid, but they also give you a stipend every month, and then your dorm is paid. That program does not exist. I was the last one, that last batch, not the last one. So
you
anyway,
didn't
so
break it.
yeah, so this is where my journey started. I went to St. Lawrence's Convent Girls School, then went to University of Karachi, then went to, this is where I graduated at Roche-Laran University in Budapest, but then, but before that, I went to France and then to Germany. Then I moved to University of Iowa, Carver College of Medicine, Holden Comprehensive Cancer Center to do my postdoc, and then became a research associate, lived there for almost 9 years, then moved to UC Davis because my husband's lab, he was also a faculty over there. His group moved to UC Davis, so I tagged along, and then I started another postdoc because I was looking for a faculty position, but UC Davis said, you have to do a postdoc with us. And I said, I already did one. No, but you have to do another one before we consider you for a position. So I did another postdoc, and then finally, was able to become a research faculty. And in 2019, I made a transition from academic career to an industry position at a German company who has a headquarters in Germany, but branches everywhere in Vienna and Shanghai, Richfield, and it's situated here in Fremont. And they make their own products, biosimilars. One is very famous one, which is a biosimilar to Humira, and some cardiovascular drugs, but they also manufacturing commercial drugs for other companies, mostly cancer drugs. So that's where I work right now. And here is, my story. This is my family, my husband, my 2 kids. My son is starting his college at UC Santa Barbara. My daughter we live in Danville. She's at a high school, 9th grader. And then this is like my snapshot of my career: PhD in biochemistry, postdoc in cancer biology. I have experience in breast cancer research, but therapeutics, mammalian culture. My hobby is painting on silk, and I have exhibited my work in various exhibitions and several times featured in local magazines and Davis Enterprise newspaper because of, like people get fascinated with, they say that you paint on silk. So, that's like something new. So what else? I think I'm very lucky in a way that my career and educational journey has provided me with an opportunity to travel all over the world. When I was in Europe, I used to travel everywhere, from Budapest to Vienna is 2 hours. Then lived in Germany, France, to learn different cultures, try to learn different languages. I would not say it was an easy journey, but it was an interesting one. And it has taught me a lot of valuable lessons. Like I can get along with anybody, everybody, and every different culture, languages, religions. So I call myself a global citizen and not particularly belong to any special country. If you look at my journey, I've not lived except in this US, more than 10 years in any country, or 12 years. So what happened, there was a big switch happened earlier, in the middle of my career at UC Davis, where I transitioned from bench to bedside research, meaning, I was doing basic research, and then I moved to clinical research, where in the basic research, you do the identify key molecules that lead to specific diseases and then develop drugs that specially target certain critical pathways in cancer. And then basic researchers or scientists use animal models to study the disease progression, how the drug is absorbed, how it is distributed, and then you move on to real patients, which is clinical research. So I made a transition from bench to bedside research, went to the clinical research, and now I think I've come a full circle where going from basic research to clinical research and now to commercial manufacturing. And and so two transition, first from bench side to bedside research, and then but it was still an academic center, but then from academia to industry. That happened like 2.5 years ago. So this is the snapshot, University of Iowa, where I started my cancer research. And one thing I forgot to mention, the only interest, the one particular interest that I had in going into the cancer research pathway is because of my, personal history where my father had that disease. And when I had to choose the career in research, I specifically chose cancer research and stayed with that for a long time. My research focus mostly was microRNA-based therapeutics and hypoxia in breast cancer and prostate cancer, ovarian cancer. Then before I left, I was working on cancer immunotherapy, where now there's a new thinking where instead of drug that we use a different mechanism to activate body's own immune system to fight cancer. This is something which is, not fully developed, but it's a very hot area. And this is my model. I mean, I don't want to go into the scientific detail. Maybe if somebody's interested, maybe another time. Some of the articles that I've published, in breast cancer, in multiple journals, I'm just showing a few of them. And not only, I published paper, my role in academia was like mentoring a small group of students, anytime from 7 to 8, comprising of graduate, undergraduate students, MS students, PhD students, sometimes MD students, and mentoring them, helping them develop their research projects, writing grants, giving presentations, publishing articles, and then traveling for, conferences where you publish, where you present your work. And then I moved in industry, and right now my role is to support commercial biologics, large scale process validation, process characterization study, improvement studies, and then I'm also involved as an internal auditor for audits through FDA in our company, and several studies dealing with raw material. And why did this transition happen? Like somebody can ask, like, why did I decide? And there were several reasons. Making a career, and I stayed in academia for 15 years. It was not easy because you're always dependent on grants, soft money. Universities don't pay you. You have to bring your own grant, and then you have to pay to your own group. So you're not only responsible for your own career and your life, but you also have a group of people who work with you to pay your salaries. And every 3 years, you have to apply for funding. And there's a small pool of money that everybody's competing. Somebody, big shot in Johns Hopkins or Harvard, and I will compete for the same pool of money. So it's very challenging, stressful, and no security. That's what I felt. I'm like, how long can I do that? Like every 4 years, 3 years, I worry about. So far, I have been successful in getting the funding. And then the other on the personal level, other thing happened that 5 years ago, my husband left academia and he went to work for Bayer Pharmaceutical. And we were living in Davis. So he was commuting from Davis to Berkeley. And then he moved to Biomarine. So he was commuting from Davis to Biomarine in San Rafael. And we didn't move because my job was at UC Davis. My kids were in Davis school. But then, through like things got out, like in his workplace, like he's commuting for Davis, and sometimes people will get very surprised, like, why you're making such a long commute? And then he would say, because my wife has a job at UC Davis. So like people would ask, like, what does she do? So one of the director, was like, share her resume with us and see let's see, if she's interested. And he said, no, she's not interested. She's not, ever showed interest in working for industry, but she is very like into lectures and writing grants. So, but then, I thought about it and I thought, okay, no, I'll give it a try, and then I talked to other colleagues, my higher ups and the director of the cancer center who was my, boss. And he said, give it a try. If it works out, fine. Otherwise, you can always come back to your, university job. So that's how it happened. And I got a call from the company, and they shared a job description with me. And one of the things that caught my eye was like 15 years of industry experience. I'm like, I have 0 years of industry experience, and you guys are calling me, and I don't think so I'm the right candidate. And they said, well, forget about what it's saying. We need somebody who has a lot of cell culture knowledge and who can understand science, cell science, biology of cell. So anyways, cut the long story short, multiple rounds of phone interview. Then I was called on site whole day, and then I got the job. And then they shared with me that they are making this product, and they're dealing with a lot of issues. And the issues was because, when you're making any drug, you have to go through, you have a certain criteria, like it's called critical quality attributes that they have to fulfill through. And if it's not, then the FDA rejects it. So they were dealing with that issue for 2 years. And I was told by the director of MSAT, like, we have engineers here, but we don't have anybody who understands cells. So we decided it's high time we should bring somebody from academia who can understand science and who can figure out the cell pathways. So that's the reason, I was brought in. And within a month, because I was trained to research, to, find out articles, to identify pathways, I was able to identify what was the issue. And I cannot go into the detail. And then it was implemented and we were able to fix the problem. But then there are other problems that are going right now, and we have to, fix those problems too. So, and while doing all this, I liked what I was doing. I saw those, instant gratification, like the results happening right there in front of your eyes within months, rather than like when it takes years in academia to see, like it takes 3 years to publish a paper, sometimes 5 years. So, and it was very black and white. It's like whether it's this or that. You cannot, if it's 0.5 micrograms, it's 0.5. You cannot do 0.4 because you're not doing research and development. So I like interaction with people, cross-functional teamwork environment, and that very fast-paced industry and corporate world. I love it. And I said, okay, I'm not going back to academia. I'll stay here. So what are how do I reflect my career path, like my change from academia to industry? Number one, I realized that changing directions, shifting away from academic science did not mean that, you stop loving science. I love science more because I get a lot of credit for understanding scientific nature of the job that we do. Not everybody, in industry have that kind of knowledge. Mostly people are very technical. So I get a lot of credit, and I feel that the time spent in academia was worth it. And also, I realize we have a plan, but we have to be ready that it can change with time, and we have to be flexible. not always, things cannot go all the way, always the way we want. Things can change and we have to be flexible, and maybe the new opportunities will come that will be better than what, what we were doing before. So we have to be open to change. Those are a few things that when I think about like, what did I do in last 2 years and what did I learn? These are the few things that come to my mind. And so what are the major differences between working in academia versus industry? So number one is, and academia is very curiosity focused. You have to be curious. That's why you can do research. You can do, inventions. But industry is very focused in delivering results. Roles and responsibilities are also different. Like in academia, everything is your responsibility. If you're a project lead, everything is your job, even the jobs that you don't like to do. Whereas in industry, we have dedicated experts to do a particular job. In academia, a lot of autonomy. You can do whatever you want, flexibility, openness. I mean, because you are still inventing stuff, developing, where industry is like very, like I said, black and white. Each department has its own SOP. It's very GMP regulated. So not as much autonomy or flexibility. But the current career ladder is very difficult to climb in academia. The academic institutions are producing more PhDs than they have jobs, faculty positions. Opportunities to go further in the careers are becoming harder and harder if funding is shrinking. But recently, Biden has increased funding, which has its own, negativities, which, we can talk if somebody is interested. But in industry, the opportunities are broader. We can go into the supply chain, manufacturing, marketing, quality, process science. So it's like, it's career development options are great. And also the other important factor is salary difference. An industry pays 30% more than what you get paid in academia. And I think everybody knows about that. So those are some of the differences. But what are the lessons that I have learned overall? Number one, a career progression is not like a ladder, like, what we think about, you go one step at a time. It's more like a rock wall climb. You have to approach, grow laterally throughout your career. Sometimes new hires, and even in our company, there's a program where if you are interested in other functions, you can rotate for 6 months and you can develop the skills. And when the position opens, you can apply for that position, or after a few years, they can hire you for a leadership role because you are learning aspects. So it's like more like a rock wall climb. And another thing is you have to be a lifelong learner. Keep on acquiring new skills and capabilities to further your career. When I joined the company, I did not know the lingo. Like when they talked about PPQ, I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was not ashamed to admit, because they hired me knowing that I'm coming with zero industry experience, and they were willing to give me that, that opportunity. So they would say, yeah, it means that. So then I was commuting from Davis at that time. In the first week, I drove from Davis to Fremont, and I said I can do it. 3.5 hours one way. And I had to wait for the school year to finish so that we can move to the Bay Area. Then I started taking Amtrak, and 2.5 hour long Amtrak drive one way. I would sit and read and learn and read and learn. And that's why I said, like, I learned so much, self-educated myself, and you have to be a lifelong learner. And I don't want to boast about it, but I think I know as much, and I'm as good as anybody working in industry for 15 years, because, I made it a point that I have to learn, and I utilize that time. The other thing is, In the current world, the knowledge world is no longer divided between, you have to be a specialist or a generalist. No longer that thing exists. I think it's a new term like versatilist. You have to apply a wide range of skills and knowledge and experiences in different situations. And we have to learn to be at ease with not only with technical issues, but we also have to be able to understand business strategy. You're progressively widening our scope of knowledge and experiences, and also focusing on just the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths competency is not enough. And you don't have to be focusing on a specific STEM career, rather than like learning and being a versatile learner, constantly changing, learning and adapting to a fast changing world. To be honest, whatever I'm doing now, I have not learned in school. It is based upon my own self-education, like whatever is the need, whatever is the requirement, and then going, reading, learning, and acquiring your skill or getting a training. So it's like you have to be, age doesn't have anything to do with it. You have to be constantly learning and evolving. And like I said, in this fast changing world, we have to be prepared for the jobs that are yet to be created, technologies that have not yet been invented, and problems that we don't know will arise. Like, for example, COVID-19, we never knew that we will be in this situation and we all will be virtual, but we adapted. Like, I think my kids are studying things that, and they don't know that they'll be working on technologies that are not invented yet. So we have to have that open mindedness and not think ourselves that, close ourselves in a box that we can only do this. A human brain or human are very powerful. They have a lot of capacity to adapt and to learn and to change based upon the circumstances and the need. And in an order to survive, not only in industry, I'm talking especially in biopharma, four C's are very important. Number one is critical thinking. We should have the ability to learn to think critically. Collaboration and in working in a team's environment, knowing the weaknesses and all that, but still being able to work in a productive as a productive team. We have to have ability to problem solve. And then one other important area for working in industry is communication skills. Written and oral are really extremely important. And because of my experience in writing grants, I have written so many grants all my life. I am able to write technical documents so easily and so much faster. And I think this skill come very handy. So all these things, I think has helped me in my career that I learned in academia. But at the same time, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to, be as good as what I do, and then also prepare myself for the roles that will come in future. I am not stopping at where I have a roadmap where I want to go, and I'm developing myself for that role. So, and I would end at saying, there are three kinds of people: those who let it happen, those who make it happen, and those who wonder what happened. And we do not want to be in the third category. Then that's all I have for today. Thank you for your time.
So we're going to open it up for question. Again, for the students who are on here, if you want to ask something in chat, I can read it, or if you want to ask her directly. Dr. Amir, during your career, I mean, what would you tell your younger self? I mean, would you have liked to have switched industry earlier, or would you have liked to have stayed on in academia one more round of grants? I mean, what do you think?
Um, Knowing what I know now,
Mhm.
I would have switched earlier, because staying in academia that long and then making a switch, it doesn't make a difference. It's a different world. You have to learn things. And like, if I would have made the switch, like maybe right after my postdoc, or right like 2 years after my PhD, I probably would have been much higher in my career, maybe a director somewhere, because I have to take a step down to enter into the industry. So yeah, if I would have known that I will be taking this path, because at that time I was like, no, I want to be in academia, I want to teach, I want to write grants, I want to invent, I want to publish. So I never thought, but knowing what I know, like I would have switched way before that than now.
And the other thing is, how do you create a work-life balance? So it looks like you have a great family, husband and kids and kind of everything else. And it's that seems like it's very successful. How do you keep your career on track, and how do you keep your family on track? And were there times where, again, you have to go to a school or something else like that took away from some of what you were doing? Do you feel that how are you able to juggle all those things together?
It's not easy, very challenging. Let me tell you, when earlier, when we were at University of Iowa, we lived on campus. And in academia, you have a lot of flexibility. You can come in and go anytime you want. So when we were in Davis, working at UC Davis, living in Davis, and it's a small town. So I would get out of my lab, go pick up my kids, come back to the lab, then, drop my kids. So a lot of flexibility, but then a lot of pressure too. And I was always a very hands-on mom, very involved in their life, participated in all the school activities like PTA board and all that. I'm still doing all this. Um, but it is not easy. It takes a toll. I am sleep deprived most of the time. Um, but and I sometimes I feel like, I lack, I would have been further ahead in my career if I would not have given so much time to my kids. Or sometimes I felt, I would have been a better mom if I would not have given so much time to my career. So those thoughts, to be very honest, I feel like, I did whatever, like, and the other day I was talking to my 18-year-old son, and I was telling him, I feel like, I should have been further ahead in my career. I said, what are you talking, Mom? You have your PhD, you had a successful career in academia, and now you made this transition, which most people would never dare to do at that stage. And now you're doing so well here. You are getting promoted and all that. And I said, I'm very proud of you. You were very involved in my life, and it felt great. I don't think so that I'm a great mom, but coming from him, but it's not easy. I mean, honestly, at this stage in my career, I think I have a lot more flexibility because my son is going to college. My daughter is in 9th grade. They don't need me as much, very self-sufficient. 2 years from now on, my daughter can drive. So I have a lot more flexibility, and that's why I was able to make that switch and take the risk. Um, but yeah, I mean, for any working mother without any family support, I don't have anybody, my mom, anybody near me. It was hard. I'm mostly dependent on daycare, babysitters, but I never took any vacation with my kids. I never went out, just me and my husband leaving my kids. I never did it. I was like, no, they are already 6-8 hours, daycare, whatever we are doing together. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, Nick, was whether I was able to answer your question, but I like said, it was challenging, and it is challenging.
I think the right answer to that is whatever you're able to do is good.
Yeah.
Like you said, you get the great validation. If your son says you did a great job, then you did a great job. But here we have one of our students asked, what's the most rewarding moment of working in industry that you did not get to experience while doing academia? And maybe the vice versa. What's the rewarding thing in academia that you won't get from working in industry?
Which answer would you like? The industry one, I think, is more relevant. Well, the time when I joined the company, it was within the first week when I was hired. The director of MSAT, which is Manufacturing Science and Technology, she was away for a conference, and so we didn't meet. The next week he came and she said, you know why we hired you? Because we have this particular issue. And we would like to bring the CQAs, like critical quality attributes line. And as an engineers, we cannot understand. So that's why you're here. And it was a lot of pressure. I thought, oh my God, you know, what did I get myself into? They are expecting too much from me. And I'm like this poor researcher, you know, and I'm coming from cancer research, and I'm like, what do I do? But then, you know, my lifelong training of researching, reading, and then I immersed myself went into PubMed, looked for articles and looked for the particular, and then I found one article and read it. And then I came to her like 2 days later and said, you know what, I think I know what is going on. So, and I said, you know, rather than explaining to you, let me discuss it in a group meeting with the whole process science group, and I will present this idea. So I presented like what I think is wrong with and how do we fix it. And then with evidence, I showed that article that was published by Merck. So like similar issues that they were dealing. So it was a confirmation that what, you know, I was saying. And then we tested this on a small scale, what I recommended, it worked. So now every time we get a new hire, my teammate or my seniors explain to them the process, and they said, oh, Sumaira is the one who identified it and she fixed it. So this is very gratifying and being acknowledged. And then you see the result immediately. It's not like you have to wait years. So within months, you know, within a month, I was able to, within a week, and then within a month, we saw the result. So, yeah.
Next question, I think you already answered this one, but what is the one thing that you bring into industry environment from academia?
Number one, strong scientific knowledge, being able to research critical thinking. There are so many communication skills, presentation skills, technical writing skills, which are very important in academia, and being able to take challenges, not being afraid. Like every time there is a new challenge, I volunteer myself, because people ask me this question, what do you find more, you know, like which career was easier? I said, this is easy, what I used to do. And they get a shock. Really? I said, yes, academia was brutal. And that's why, you know, I do so much here, and I volunteer and I do so much. So it was like the training and reading, writing, technical writing skills, communication skills, presentation skills, and scientific knowledge.
Student asks, of all the research you have done, do you have a favorite? If so, which one and why? I guess this is like asking which of your children is your favorite, but if you can tell.
No favorite, because I did different projects during different times. During a postdoc, I looked at the effect of hypoxia on in the cancer microenvironment, because what happens when tumor grows, you know, in a space where there are only 100 cells, there are like 1 billion cells, and they are all competing for the same nutrients, oxygen. So then the environment inside the tumor is very hypoxic, meaning it has less oxygen. So this is one of the factors that tumors use to survive. And I was able to determine certain pathways. And when I published that paper as a postdoc, it was recognized as one of the significant investigation on that year, 2005. And it became the journal commentary for another journal. And then Vanderbilt Research Institute reached out to me for a fellowship program in their university based upon. So that was very good. But then at UC Davis, I did microRNA research. So when I joined as a research faculty, one of the criteria at the UC Davis Cancer Center, like you cannot work on anything that you worked in the past. You have to bring a new idea, establish a new research program that no other faculty is doing, and it's unique to the group. So then I brought microRNA based research and published in British Journal of Cancer, which is a subsidiary of Nature Science. And everybody knows Nature is a good journal. And it was also cutting edge research. And right before I left, I was working on cancer immunotherapy. And it is also very, very, important and very translational. So fortunately, every time, I started a project, it was very novel at that time, very cutting edge. And so all the projects, I cannot pick all of them are like real, like you said, Nick, like all my children. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like we don't have any questions. I'll ask from the audience. Anyone have any other questions that they would like to ask?
Hi, Sumaira. I was taking notes and I think I missed one of your C's. I know you said you have 4 important C's, and I only got critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and wait, where's the other one?
And
Creative problem solving.
I can share my slides with you guys if you want. I can send it to Julio, and but it's mostly my story. But
that would be great. No, that would be great. I have to say I'm so impressed with all of your accomplishments and also your extracurricular activities.
Thank you. Thank you so
much. I love art.
Yeah. And it's like my way to release stress, and I took it as a hobby. And then I start giving, hand painted silk scarf to my friends during Christmas time. And some of them said, like, why don't you, present your work in Davis Art Center? And I said, like, why would they be interested in my work? No, they would be. So I sent it there. And the Davis Art Center, they pick holiday time, they invite artists to display this work. I was invited, and then it was very well received. And then Davis Enterprise, one of the local newspaper, they featured. So, and then like my son calls it, Mommy, this is a work. This is something that you can rely on when you retire. So it will give you some income and also some kind of, something to do. So you are set. He tells me like, yeah. But I'm not going to retire soon. I have a long way to go. And I don't see myself ever retiring, to be honest. And beside that, I do a lot of other things like the PDA member. Then I'm also the chair of our WLI at Boehringer Ingelheim, which is Women's Leadership Initiative. So I chair that. And also panel members of multiple TED Talks that we do. And soon we are going to introduce podcasts for PDA. I think you know about that, right? Vamshi and I are, and we probably will talk about a lot of relevant topics. And maybe you guys, if any topic, you could suggest that this is what you would like to have podcast on. We'll have open to ideas.
That's great. We look forward to the collaboration with that.
To be honest, I was very confused coming here and agreeing to give a talk, like what I'm going to talk about. Like, will they be interested in learning my journey? Like academia is so boring. But I thought, well, let's see, I'll tell them maybe. But I'm glad that you guys, enjoyed the talk.
We are glad to have you and to hear, motivational pieces from your journey.
Thank you.
So the students say thank you again as well. And so I think that's about it. I think we can end up on there on a good note.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would like to say that you guys can reach out to me if you have any questions. whether it's related with your research, with your studies, or anything related with, career in industry, any help, any guidance, because this is what I did, mentored all my life. So if anybody needs any advice or guidance for starting a new job or like which career to choose, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help or guide if I can.
Can our students have your email address?
Yes, I can.
You're
Share
on
that.
LinkedIn too, right? Yeah, she's on.
I am on LinkedIn, and I can send my email, personal email, not my company email, to Julio, and he can share with everybody. Is that okay, Julio?
Sounds good.
Fine.
All right, thanks everyone. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
Start to
Have a
the week.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. And thanks, Julio.
All right, you're welcome.
Bye.